Child Protection Week, hence, of course, our green ribbons that we're wearing today. But an issue, it's of course until the 4th of June, National Child Protection Week, but it's an issue that is quite important and should not be relegated to just 1 week a year. Now, Dr. Shaheda Omar from the Teddy Bear Clinic says child safety is a daily issue. She joins us now for more. A very good morning to you, Doctor, and thank you so much for your time. Even during National Child Protection Week, does National Child Protection get the attention it needs? Do children and their safety get the attention even in their own week?
Unfortunately, the stark reality on the ground is that despite it being National Child Protection Week, despite all the hype and media focus on the safety and protection of children, we are actually seeing children still being hurt, violated, and the incidence of violation against children continues to increase. So again, I just want to reiterate, it is a 365-day campaign, child protection all the time. Yes, it's important to highlight the plight of the safety of children and to align ourselves to the Sustainable Development Goals of 2025, leaving no child behind, ensuring that children are free from hunger, equal education, and safe. But we are finding that children are actually not safe, not at home, not at school, not in public places. And this clearly indicates that we are missing something as a society. Where are we failing our children? People closest, nearest, and dearest to children are violating children. We just saw the brutal poisoning of children, a great 10-year-old gang raped, a toddler being chopped up and put in a dumped on the highway in a packet. I mean, this is not something that we can live with. We cannot tolerate this kind of conduct.
Doc, it cannot be said that there is not enough education. Even yourself, you've just said that there is, media campaigns. We're having this conversation right now, and it cannot be said that, and I'm going to be straight with it, it cannot be said that men are not watching this conversation between you and I and hearing what we're saying and hearing our plea to them that you can't be doing what you're doing to children, because it can't be said that they're not hearing this conversation. So there cannot be enough education to people who've made the decision that they're going to harm the most vulnerable. Is it because they are vulnerable and that they can't fight back?
Well, of course, we know that, all the teachings, all the awareness raising, my stance is that it should be implicit that children should be protected. And yet we are faced with the daunting task of teaching children to say no, teaching children to run, teaching children to speak out, and actually robbing a child the freedom of play, which should come, which is their right. It's their integral right to be allowed to be free and enjoy. But the reality is, of course, very different. And what you say about children being the most disadvantaged, vulnerable group, yes, most definitely. But at the same time, we all need to work together. And I think we're still working in silos. All government departments, civil society, faith-based organizations, everybody needs to come to the party. The theme for this year and years to come is let us all work together to protect children during COVID-19 and beyond COVID-19. Unfortunately, that's not happening. If there's collective action, because we speak about awareness raising, we are educating people out there, like you say, widespread campaigns out there, and we know that government is also going to be in Lutsiki, and these things are happening on the ground where they're addressing the needs of children. But is this really enough? Because if we look at the fact that there aren't sufficient resources, and even where there are resources, and we look at the rural areas, we speak about awareness raising. How many people out in the deep rural areas have access to information, have access to social media, have platforms where they can access support? People have to travel distances even to reach a police station or a healthcare facility or any resource that could provide support, intervention, guidance. So the reality is that we still have a long, long way to go. And if we don't actually work together swiftly, we're going to find that more children are going to suffer. How many more children need to die? Because we know that at least 3 children a day are dying. But we also know that we are faced with the scourge of malnutrition. And this is not something that's new. It's been unveiled during COVID and amplified during COVID. From 1999, the Children's Institute did a study and found that 1 in 5 children, and that is 25% of children under the age of 5, are stunted because of malnutrition. So this has a ripple effect in terms of cognitive, emotional development, and even the intergenerational patterns of poverty. We're creating and perpetuating this cycle, which leads itself to more risk factors rather than protective factors.
Doc, a topic that is one that I find to be quite close to me is the mental health of children. You know, there are kids that are growing up in environments where their families, their elders, their moms, their dads, their aunts and uncles and grandparents, because they grew up in a certain way, they don't understand the importance of protecting the mental health of children. Children are expected to always be cheerful and happy, and, you know, children are not expected to be sad and you know, then it's seen as though they're just being brats. The importance of protecting and identifying issues with a child's mental health. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think if we just look at the scourge of violence that children are surrounded by, violent neighborhoods, domestic violence, violence in schools, violence in public places, and then, of course, the violence that we are seeing even on media all the time. So children, instead of being exposed to positive role models, adult male role models, female role models, are actually assimilating, internalizing the violence, and often it results in confusion, which contributes to trauma. And how do children respond to trauma? By reenacting, of course, it would also make them feel powerless, helpless, defenseless, but affecting their self-esteem, affecting their interpersonal relationships. And of course, this compromises the mental health of many children. And often we see children and we label them, because that's what we tend to do. That's a bad child, that's a mad child. And actually, when we unpack the layers and we actually look into what's going on in the child's life, the child is either depressed, very sad, and is suffering, cannot articulate or verbalize what he or she is experiencing.
Dr. Shaheda Omar, thank you so much for joining us and helping us kick off National Child Protection Week. It starts today, the 29th of May, all the way until the 4th of June. The theme this year is Let Us Protect Children During COVID-19 and Beyond. But as Dr. Shaheda Omar very explicitly pointed out, this should not be a 29 to 4 June campaign. This should be